welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 351, and today's date is April 26, 2014, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief for this Saturday. Before I get started, just want to say thanks to all those people who donated to the X22Report.com site. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I am very grateful. Thank you. And for those people who are just subscribed to the YouTube channel, you can come over to the X22Report.com site. I do many different things on the site. We also have a forum called The People, where people talk about what's going on in the world, the economic collapse. It is completely free to join. If you're a little hesitant about joining, no problem. You can come, you can read. It's completely open and completely free. Same thing with the X22Report.com site, completely free. You can read anything on there that you want. Okay, let's get started. Let's get into the economic collapse news. Now, in my reports that I've done quite a while ago, we talked about net neutrality, where ISPs were going to take control of the Internet. They were going to create tiers where there'll be fast lanes, medium lanes, slow lanes, and those people, those companies or news organizations that wanted the fast lane, where they wanted their information to stand out, they wanted that information to stand out so people can see it, read it, and those companies that have the big mucho dollars, they can pay to be in the fast lane. Other organizations, like myself, will be in the slow lane because I don't have these huge corporate sponsors coming in and paying for this, and I don't have millions of dollars to pay for the fast lane. So what's going to happen now is that those people searching for information, it might take a little longer for like my site to come up compared to CNN. And a lot of times what you'll see is that information being shown over other people's information that do not have the dollars to pay for this. And this is what we are seeing. The FCC is going along with this now, and we can pretty much kiss net neutrality completely goodbye right now. And this goes on to say, those companies could pay for preferential treatment on the last mile of a broadband network that connects directly to consumers' homes. The news first reported by the Wall Street Journal would in fact create a two-tiered system in which wealthy companies can better serve the market at the expense of younger, less well-capitalized firms. Under the new proposed system, companies such as Comcast or Verizon will be able to create a tiered internet system, and we can see how they're trying to take control of the Internet, because the information that the government, the corporate media wants to get out there because they have the money, that will be the information that's out there first. Everything else will lag behind, and when you're trying to reach those sites, it might be very, very difficult. And this is one way they are trying to take over the Internet. President Obama has also given a lot of the control of the Internet to the UN, and we can see how this is all turning out here. They want total control because the Internet is the Wild West. They have no control over alternative media, talking about other subjects which they don't want anyone to know about. And you can see a lot of alternative media sites bringing up information and the truth that they don't want to talk about. And we have to remember, in the NDAA, it does say that the government is now allowed to use propaganda against the American people. So what we're seeing now is control over the Internet, allowing their corporate the corporate news to spread the information of the government. Rather, it doesn't matter if it's facts or if it's propaganda. They will be on the front line, and everything else will be on the sides. And this is how they're trying to maneuver their way in taking over the Internet at this time. Now, we can see out in Ukraine, there are many, many things happening out there. And right now, Ukraine is saying that Russia flew some planes into Ukraine airspace, and the Pentagon officials quoted by U.S. media Friday claimed that Russian fighter jets flew into Ukrainian airspace a handful of times over the 24 hours, calling it a continued provocation. Now, of course, the officials were not named. It's an anonymous source that this is coming out. And Russia is saying, we have not flown any planes in Ukraine. If we have, can you please present the facts? And when I say the facts, what they're talking about, they need to show the altitude, the plane, the speed, the direction, because if they caught this on radar, they should have all that information. And right now, the United States, the Ukraine government, not responding to this type of information whatsoever. So right now, until they can prove that their planes flying in, we're going to take this as propaganda at this time. Now, Ukraine government is asking the people of Ukraine to help out with the anti-terrorism forces and the Donbass battalion forces that are going to the cities and to the regions. They don't have enough money to support them, so right now the acting Ukraine government is asking for the people to donate equipment to the newly formed special forces. And what they can give in is bulletproof vests, Kevlar helmets, soap, underwear, linen, and the ministry says it accepts both money donations and actual body armor and hygiene products if you'd like to donate. And they're asking the people of this country who are struggling at this point because energy is going up, their currency is being devalued, and they're being put more and more into debt. So I don't know how many people are going to actually donate to this cause, but we'll have to see. Now, we understand that Russia gave Ukraine a bill for the natural gas, and we understand that Ukraine received billions of dollars from the IMF, $1 billion from the United States, and there was a report that I did saying that some of this IMF money was going to be used to pay off this gas bill, and so far none of it has gone to Gazprom whatsoever. They haven't received a dime. And what we're seeing right now is that Moscow is saying, if you don't make your payment, we're going to be shutting the gas off. And what has happened is, and this is for a tit-for-tat we can see happening here, Ukraine is shutting off the water to Crimea. And, what's happening here is, Russia wants their bill paid, or Gazprom wants their bill paid. Ukraine doesn't have the money, or they're spending that money in different places, going to the bank, the banksters, and all the financial people, instead of paying their bills. And we can see all this coming about right now. And to show force and to provoke Russia again, they are going to shut off water in Crimea. And Crimea says, don't worry about it. They can shut the water off. They have other alternatives in receiving water. Crimea right now receives about 85% of fresh water through the canal, which was built in 1961 through 1971. It stretches from the Kakhovka Reservoir to Kerch, and Crimea will not be left without water. We have a fallback plan. There are no problems with fresh water right now, and this is what they are saying. Now, we understand that the self-defense forces, the protesters, captured a Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe bus, and they're holding them at this time. And Moscow is taking steps to free the international military observers working for the OSCE, which were allegedly detained by the pro-federalization protesters near Ukraine's city. And what they're saying is that they stopped the bus because they seen weapons on there. They had maps of where all the armories were, where the roadblocks were, and they were looking at this, and some of them they do believe are not from the OSCE, that they are officers or Blackwater in Ukraine, and this is why they detain these people. And right now Moscow is working to sort through this and see who really is from the OSCE and who is not. Now, soldiers have landed in Lithuania. They've also landed in Poland. This is part of NATO's buildup at this time. American troops have arrived in Lithuania for military drills as tensions rise in the region over Ukraine. The Lithuanian government welcomed the arrival of 150 troops at the Air Force base there, and this is part of a bigger group which makes up about 600 troops that have been deployed throughout Eastern Europe to reassure NATO allies. Now, right now, Russia has a satellite photo of Ukraine, and they're showing a buildup of about 15,000 Ukrainian military servicemen They're seeing about 160 tanks, 230 infantry combat vehicles, and armored personnel carriers, as well as 150 rifles from this satellite photo. They're saying this is being built up in the Donetsk region, the north section, and they're saying that we might be seeing a huge operation at this time to really make a blow at the protesters. And so far, no one has come out to say that these satellite photos have been doctored or faked, so we'll have to see how this turns out. And right now, again, we have to understand the central bankers, U.S. government, they have one goal. They will continually provoke until they get a war started. And this is what they've been pushing for. They have not stopped. Now, there's a report out there that there are unidentified men that disembarked helicopters near the town of Soledar in Donetsk region and attacked a checkpoint of the pro-federalization activists. Federalization supporters have blocked the way to the salt mines of Soledar, where the armories are located, in order to prevent Ukrainian National Guard from getting their hands on the weapons. They're protecting the armory. They're made up of old Soviet weapons. There's like Mausers, Colts, submachine guns in there, and there's just a lot of them. But all those weapons are from the Soviet time, and they're protecting the armories right now. So the Ukrainian National Guard, Blackwater, and all the other soldiers that are out there can't get to them right this time. And again, who are these unidentified men? We do not know at this time. Okay, now there's a lot of information out there, and it seems like there's a lot of propaganda going back and forth. So if we look at what's been going on and we break it down, and this is coming from global research, if we look at this, we're seeing many different things being said here from the Russian side, from the U.S. side, and from the Ukrainian side. So if we take a look at this, we see Kerry. He suspended Ukraine's counterterrorism initiative over Easter, choosing de-escalation despite Ukraine's legitimate fundamental right to defend its own territory and its own people. Well, you have to remember that the Ukraine government is a puppet government. They were put into place. They were not elected. I understand there's elections coming up in May, but you have to remember those people who are running are selected by the central bankers. I want you to run, you to run, you to run, and they are all part of the puppet regime. So it doesn't matter who's elected. The central bankers, U.S. government, they are completely covered. And what we're seeing right now is this government really has no legitimacy at this time. They have no legal authority. They are actually a mob rule, and we understand they were trained in Poland months before to push this coup d'etat forward. And we also have to remember the central bank U.S. government spent $5 billion on this. There were leaked phone calls from Nuland, and it implicates this whole entire coup, and we can see that their agenda has been pushed forward. And I understand they de-escalated during the Easter time, but all of a sudden they started with the anti-terrorism units moving forward again. They didn't back down. They didn't pull back at all. They just paused for a second. So, is what they're saying true? Not really. Kerry says on day one, Yatsenyuk, the one that was chosen way before the coup d'etat, he was put into power. He is a central banker, and Yatsenyuk committed his government to undertake constitutional reform that will strengthen the powers of regions. Well, no constitutional reforms exist. No steps were taken so far. No legitimate ones are even planned. So right now they have done absolutely nothing. The world has rightly judged that Prime Minister Yatsenyuk and the government of Ukraine are working in good faith. For 7 days, Russia has refused to take a single concrete step in the right direction. Not a single Russian official, not one, has publicly gone on television in Ukraine and called on the separatists to support the Geneva Agreement, to support the stand down, to give up their weapons and get out of Ukrainian buildings. And this is what John Kerry is saying. Well, let's look at this. Russia has gone out completely all the time saying we need to adhere to the Geneva agreement that we created. You need to pull the armed forces back to give the people a chance. Just sitting them, all these tanks, all these weapons, sitting there in front of these buildings is not going to tell the people that you're backing off. Look what happened at the Bundy Ranch. We saw BLM there. We saw the people stand there and protect their rights. Until the BLM backed down, then the people dispersed and moved off. If the armed forces just would have backed up a little bit, shown a little good faith, I'm sure the people would have said, okay, let's back down. Now, Russia has been out there saying we would like to have a dialogue. Instead of using force, let's all sit down and talk about what is going on here, because the people want to have the same thing that happened when Ukraine was taken over. They want their time and they want their right to have a referendum to secede from the coup d'etat Ukraine government. And Lavrov was out there on TV in Ukraine saying that Kiev should fulfill its agreement on the Geneva Agreement. And this is what was going on at this time. Now, Kerry is out there also saying the government of Ukraine has reported the arrest of Russian intelligence agents, including one yesterday who it says was responsible for establishing secure communications, allowing Russia to coordinate destabilizing activities in Ukraine. Now, yesterday I said this. Lavrov was out there saying, if you have these people, show them on TV and let's see them. And of course, Kerry said, no, if we do this, the captors would be exposed, so show them without the captors. Show them that you actually have the people, and of course, they never did. So, when you can't prove or show something, to me that shows me it is propaganda. And I have to go back to Syria when they were saying that Assad has weapons of mass destruction, of chemical weapons. They never could prove it. They also said Russia was building up troops on Ukraine border, and there's an NBC crew that drove up and down and said we did not find any of it. Russia was allowing United States, Germany, France, and Ukraine to fly over the borders to see if there were any troops. No troops whatsoever. So a lot of propaganda is coming out. Now, Kerry was also out there saying we've seen this movie before. We saw it most recently in Crimea, where similar subterfuge and sabotage by Russia was followed by a full invasion, by the way, for which President Putin recently decorated Russian special forces at the Kremlin. Well, there was no invasion in Crimea. There were troops that were stationed there, about 16,000, and that, according to the agreement with Ukraine at the time, Russia had an agreement that they had the base in Crimea. They were allowed to station up to 25,000 troops. They only stationed about 16. Russia did not get involved. At the time of the referendum, the OSCE was there watching it, and what they saw there, that overwhelmingly the Crimeans acted on their own volition. They overwhelmingly chose reunification with Russia. They voted 96.77% to do so. Turnout was a record of 83%. It was completely calm. There were no soldiers there forcing anything, and this was overseen by the OSCE. So we can see that all of this is a lot of propaganda that has been thrown in our faces. And right now, we understand if they cannot provoke Russia, we will see other events occur. Listen, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.